Hello and welcome back. This is Goobarbedu here, and it's time to review Challenge Rift number 4, featuring that Arbiter of Arcane Power, the Wizard. With the power of the 4 elements, Arcane, Cold, Fire, and Lightning, unlocked through the full 6-piece activation of Tal Rasha's elements. Taking a closer look at Tal Rasha's elements, we see that we get a stack of 750% extra damage every time that we use an elemental ability. That's Arcane, Cold, Fire, or Lightning. So that stacks up to 4 times. So it's important to keep those stacks active for that extra damage boost. Also, every time that you use one of those elemental abilities, Arcane, Cold, Fire, or Lightning, you get a meteor of that same damage type falling from the sky doing lots and lots of damage. And on top of this, each one of those stacks give you 25% extra resistance. So at 4 stacks you have 100% extra resistance. So as we see, in order to get full effect from Tal Rasha's elements, you must cycle through all of your elemental damage types, Arcane, Cold, Fire, and Lightning, to maintain your damage mitigation and your damage bonus, and to have all 4 different kinds of meteors fall from the sky. Now, moving beyond the Tal Rasha set, we have the supplemental legendary items here. Focusing on the far right, we have the Traveler's Pledge as the amulet, combined with the Compass Rose as the ring, gives us the Endless Walk set. This sort of defines our playstyle. While moving, damage taken is reduced by up to 50%, and while standing still, damage dealt is increased by up to 100%. So the longer you stand still, the more damage you do, and the longer you run, the more damage mitigation you have. Now let's look up to the upper left here. We have Mantle of Channeling. This says here that while channeling Disintegrate, we deal 25% increased damage and take 25% reduced damage. The bottom left we have Starfire. This enhances our lightning attacks, really focuses on long range, because lightning damage is increased by 14% for every 10 yards that you are from the target, up to a maximum of 40 yards. So the further you are from the target, the more damage you do with lightning damage. We have Electrocute with Chain Lightning as our primary signature skill, default assigned to the left mouse button with a left click. We also have our Storm Shield, which casts automatic lightning, and the Firewalker boots, granting us a trail of fire that streams right on behind us as we run on by, proccing that lovely fire meteor. Moving on to the powers, we have Mykon's Ball of Hate. This enhances Chain Lightning, allowing it to chain to enemies that have already been hit. Chain Lightning already chains to 9 additional enemies. So if there are less than 10 total enemies, Mykon's Ball of Hate allows for Chain Lightning to then cycle through those enemies numerous times. Next we have the Shame of Delcir. This affects our signature spells, allowing for them to attack faster and increase resource generation. In this build there are 2 signature spells as I marked here. We have Electrocute with Chain Lightning and Shock Pulse with Power Affinity. So that's lightning and arcane damage being spammed faster, giving us more resource generation as we go. And finally, for our third power, we have Manald Heal. This affects enemies stunned with paralysis to make them also take 14,000% weapon damage as lightning, paralysis being one of our passives. And moving on to the passives, starting in the lower left we have Paralysis. This grants our lightning spells the 15% chance to stun targets hit for 1.5 seconds. We see that with Manald Heal, enemies affected by paralysis also take 14,000% extra damage as lightning. So that's pretty good. And next, for a good solid chunk of damage mitigation, we have Blur, decreasing our damage taken by 17%. Next, in the upper right, we have Unwavering Will. This works similarly to Endless Walk, where if you stand still for 1.5 seconds, you increase your armor and resistances by 20% and your damage by 10%. And finally, we have Elemental Exposure, yet again taking advantage of the power of the elements, giving us a stack of 5% damage per elemental damage type, up to a total of 4 stacks. This, working with Tal Rasha, means that we have to use Arcane, Cold, Fire, and Lightning. Keep cycling these different elemental types to keep our stacks up, to maintain these damage boosts and damage mitigation. And now it's time to break down the skills and abilities of this wizard. First, you have your shield and magic weapon. These are the first things you want to cast because they last for 10 minutes. Magic weapon just flat out increases your damage by 20%. And storm armor passively casts lightning, striking enemies up to the edge of the screen. Our primary attack is Electrocute, chain lightning, chaining up to 10 enemies including enemies already hit. You use this ability at the very edge of the screen at maximum distance, as you get increased damage based upon distance to the enemy through the power on Starfire, the main hand weapon. As you're fighting in the battlefield, enemies will start to move closer to you. When you start to lose the benefit of distance, you can go ahead and use Disintegrate with the Convergence rune, using fire damage to pierce through a line of enemies. Disintegrate works with the Shoulder's Mantle of Channeling that gives us 25% increased damage and 25% damage mitigation while using Disintegrate. Now these final two abilities are semi-conditional on use for the passive elemental exposure and for the set bonus for Tal Rasha's elements. You want to keep all 4 elemental stacks up: Arcane, Cold, Fire, and Lightning. These two final abilities are Cold and Arcane, the two missing pieces of our puzzle here. Shock Pulse with the Power Affinity rune uses arcane energy to attack enemies in short to medium range. This attack specializes in close quarters. Our final ability is Blizzard with the Frozen Solid rune, acting as cold elemental damage. A single activation of this ability will last for 6 seconds, allowing you to use other abilities. And now the most important thing to emphasize here is to cycle the elements. You have your 4 elemental damage types. You have Arcane with Shock Pulse, you have Cold with Blizzard, you have Fire with Disintegrate and the Firewalker boots, you have Lightning with Electrocute, Chain Lightning, and with the Storm Armor, which passively casts lightning as you wander about the map. This will cause meteors of the appropriate damage type to rain down from the sky, while you benefit from the 4 stacks on Tal Rasha's elements and elemental exposure, granting you bonus damage and damage mitigation. And now it's time to put all of this in practice. So, hold on to your butts. Let's get to it.
Hold on to your butt.
Hey there and welcome back. It's time to get all groovy with this wizard, with this Tal Rashian wizard of sorts, eh? Let's do this darn thing. Now, in the actual rift, I want you to pay attention to a couple of things. I want you to pay attention to right down here to my storm armor and to magic weapon. These two will be active the entire time because they have a 10-minute cooldown, and the dungeon takes, you know, no longer than 6 minutes, but I'm aiming for about a good 210 or so. I don't know, something crazy like that, you know. Now, you got these 4 elements that I have to cycle through. You got the Electrocute with Chain Lightning, bam bam bam, lightning damage. You got fire damage with Disintegrate over here, doing some nice wow damage, some Superman Destructo Beam action. Then you got the Arcane damage with the Shock Pulse right here. Whap 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 whap. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Then you got the cold damage with Blizzard. Shazam. Bam, bam. You click it once and it keeps on going for a good 6 seconds. It's pretty good stuff. Now, as you see right here, right here, there is a stacker. Tal Rasha's element stack. 4 stack. That's 750% weapon damage per stack right there. It's pretty good stuff. As long as I keep alternating elemental abilities, that stack will keep resetting, as you can see. But if I use the same thing twice, it does not reset. So I have to keep occasionally using something else. Okay. And of course, having those stacks are pretty good, but even without the stacks, watch this. These guys die right away. It's like a pretty much instant death because we're playing at normal difficulty. That is the difficulty of this dungeon. But it's not so much about survivability, it's about speed. Speed is the name of the game here. In this dungeon in specifics here. because it's so easy. So it's all about how fast can you be, and what order do you take, and what elites have you chosen to go after, and when do you stop to shoot, is what it's all about. So keep in mind those stacks I showed you. Bam, 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 bam. 4 right there, and these 2 will be active the entire time: the shield and the magic weapon. And keep in mind the route I take and the monsters that I choose to kill and when I choose to stop. So my current score is rank 25 in the planet, global rank 25, and I have a 210.549. So I'm trying to go below 210. Okay, I'm trying to aim for below a 210. So let's do this darn thing. Magic weapon. Armor. Kill elite right here. Right there. Good thing. Up to the left. Rat boss. Dead. Get the orbs. Go up to the left right here. Okay. Ignore these guys, as your passive abilities should take care of them. Attack the elite as far as possible, but as soon as possible, because this elite right here, he has shielding. And it'll take a lot longer once he initiates it. Keep going. Carry it forward. Carry it forward. Carry it forward. Yep. Elite boss right here. See, there's lots of elites all clustered up here. All clustered up. Yep. Keep on going down. Speed pylon. Curve it. Kill that group. Down. 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 Elite group right here. Keep going. We want the speed pylon to carry us as far forward as possible. Okay. Okay. And the boss. And we're done. See, we only barely didn't make it. See, this is still a pretty good time. 222.5 is still 222.5, still top 100, you know. So that's the route really you want to take. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll be doing this every week, of course. Next week is week 5, Challenge Rift 5. This was Challenge Rift 4. The build was a wizard wearing Tal Rasha's element set, full 6-piece activation with the ring, of course, and other supplemental items to make this all nice and balanced out, pushing towards cycling through the elements, keeping your shield and buff up, and just maintaining those 4 stacks of Tal Rasha's elements. And the passive here, elemental exposure, you get the 20% damage bonus for having 4 stacks up of each of the elemental types. So as long as you keep going through the 4 types of electric, fire, arcane, and cold, you'll be good to go. Well, stay tuned for next week, and let's make this a thing, alright? I promise it'll get better. Oh my. Every week it'll get better. Every week we'll get better. Because this improves your Diablo skills. I had to like grind forever to get this. If you want to see the unadulterated footage of me grinding away for hours on end, head on down to Facebook. In fact, that little TV behind me, right around there, I started my last grinding session with Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, playing back there, and the entire thing finished from start to finish. Pretty good. And that's when I stopped my little grind. It's crazy. And that's when, and in that chunk was when I got the top 25 because I kept grinding it over and over again. So that's what is good to do. You just fill it out, learn the build, learn all these items and how they're all synergistic together. When I first saw this whole setup, I thought it was just a bunch of random stuff. I didn't really see the depth of it. And now I see it is all pretty synergistic. It all works together. If you watch the first half of this video, you'll see what I mean. Everything has a purpose and a function. Besides gold wrap, because this is a rift, or like a greater rift, and there's no gold that drops. No gold drops, okay? No gold drops, so that's the only dumb thing. That's the only dumb thing. Everything else I could like justify not having a teleport, all that stuff, but this is dumb because no gold drops, so you don't get the armor. See, it says on gold pickup you gain armor for 5 seconds. No, gold drops. But anyways, this was fun. Last week was a barbarian. Week before that was necromancer. So next week we get, you know, like a demon hunter or a monk or a witch doctor or a crusader. Man, fun times. Or did I say monk? I don't know. But yeah, so stay tuned for next time. See you later. Like and subscribe. The Goobarity way.